Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. McIntire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris McIntire with us. Chris, welcome back in.
Hey, Peter, it's good to be with you. How's everything going for you?
Doing well, doing well. I see you're back in the garage. You're in your man cave there.
It won't be too long. I've got a new desk coming, so we're preparing for COVID-19 in the fall of 2020, where I took over another room in the house here, so we had to move the wife out. So
slowly but surely, you're taking over one room at a time.
That's what I've been hearing, that same argument there, Peter.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, Chris, we always appreciate the time, the guidance, the perspective that you share with us here on the program. What we need to be doing or thinking about in our planning in order to achieve our important financial goals. And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you before we get going that Chris always makes his time available to us here on the program, but also to you on an individual basis. If you've got questions or concerns, if you'd like a comprehensive overview of your plan, an analysis of different aspects of your planning and of your retirement outlook, pick up the phone, give McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, or you can go online, McIntireRetirementServices.com, McIntireRetirementServices.com. Chris, you have an interesting topic of the day, and it's something that certainly in retirement, when we don't have a paycheck coming in, we're not necessarily capable of getting pay raises the same way we did during our working career. We're going to have to address this factor, and that is inflation. The Fed recently made some interesting announcements on their stance on inflation.
Yeah, they sure did, Peter. And where inflation is a risk for retirees is, I retire with Social Security, so I'm going to get a paycheck for life there, basically. And Social Security has a cost of living adjustment to counteract inflation. And as you know as well, Peter, as I do that, most of the time in retirement, the Medicare premium increases eat up that cost of living adjustment. So not everyone gets that once you hit the age of 65. So, if you've got drawn money off of your investment portfolio, that means if you're adjusting it for inflation, you've got to take more money out every single year to maintain the same standard of living. And, we can run some analogies here and whatnot, but we've all heard of the rule of 72. And that is the interest rate divided into 72 on how long it will take you to double your money. So if you made 7% on your money, you'll double your income in 10 years. Okay? If inflation was 7%, you'll need twice as much income in 10 years to maintain the same standard of living. So that's a wake-up analogy.
Kind of works both ways there, huh? If we're growing our savings, that interest rate is obviously important to figure out how long it takes to grow money. But if inflation is a factor, that's how long it's going to take to increase our expenses.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you think about, well, if I'm retired, I don't have any debt. And if I can make 9% in a certificate of deposit, that's fantastic. But when you go out to eat, the gentleman that owns the restaurant, or the lady that owns the restaurant, to be fair, is paying 9% more for their cost of goods that gets passed on to you, the diner, as well. So, just because you don't have any debt, you're not worried about credit cards and more home mortgages and that type of thing. Still, the price of automobiles is going up, the price of gasoline, the price of food, and here in the United States, we don't include food or fuel in the consumer price index for inflation.
Two things that increase at a pretty steady rate. Now, Chris, the Fed recently made an announcement that they are taking a more laissez-faire approach to controlling inflation. They are saying they're targeting about 2% for the inflation rate, which is really like a 400% increase from where it has been over the past decade. They've kept it exceedingly low. My question there, two questions, I guess. Is this a bit of the tail wagging the dog? With $6 trillion that they've pumped into the economy for coronavirus COVID stimulus, was inflation inevitable and they just announced this new change in stance because they knew it was coming? Is kind of first question. And then second question, once you take that lid off of the toothpaste, is it kind of hard to get control of it again? Do you think that we have the possibility of seeing more rampant runaway inflation if they start letting it go?
No question about it, Peter. And we make a lot of analogies here on the program for our listeners. And another analogy is, when it comes to inflation, that typically means there's too many dollars chasing too few goods. So if you think about, in tough times when people aren't working, prices are going to come down to attract buyers. Okay? Because there's not enough money in circulation. So, when they're adding stimulus and quantitative easing and a bunch of those fancy terms, which just means we're flooding the market with dollars. Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of money chasing fewer goods. Like, just bought a telescope for my wife, for example, for her birthday. And, it's probably going to be 2 months before we get it because the demand is so high because those are stay at home things. Car prices are going up. Pickup truck prices are through the roof right now because people are pulling boats and campers like never before.
Boats and camper prices also going up, Chris.
Absolutely. I live here on Catawba Island, and we have which is technically a peninsula. And you look around and boat lots are basically empty because you can social distance, you can stay home, kind of control your contacts, I guess. So yeah, prices certainly have gone up as demand has gone up as well. Now, we could probably find on the other side of that coin, deflation in the airline industry or hotel industry, if you will, because look, they need to attract buyers. So the dollars shift throughout an economy like this.
So this is kind of just an analogy example of supply and demand economics, and just saying that prices go up when there is more demand. But there's also the other side of that, Chris. When there's more dollars, the value of the dollar goes down. And so that's where I think the Fed has recognized that there's $6 trillion more dollars that's in the economy right now, a lot of liquidity out there. And so it may bring the value of that dollar down. That's why the inflationary scenario would sort of rear its head. Certainly something that retirees need to be cognizant of. Chris, we've talked about your report of the 3 largest retirement expenses. Taxes, our largest known expense. Healthcare, our largest potential expense, but really that silent thief, the third one, inflation, is absolutely something that retirees need to understand the true impact and cost of.
Yeah, Ben Bernanke testified in Congress when he was the chairman of the Federal Reserve and said inflation is the equivalent of a stealth tax. You never see it. You don't have to write a check for it, but it is there all the time. Every time you spend money, inflation is there. And, for most of our listeners out here, hey, we haven't had much inflation since the financial crisis when real estate prices crashed. So, and now obviously real estate is doing very well with money being cheap. Housing prices are going up. There's the inflation side of that, and especially in places like Southern Florida, where many of our folks like to go for the winter time, and do their snowbirding activities. The prices of rentals, the prices of buying property down there is skyrocketing because, hey, I don't want to go on a cruise ship, but I want to buy a house down in Southern Florida and get away for the winter time and that type of thing. Even if you turn it into a rental property, you can rent it for a lot of money now, where, before, rentals were much more competitive because people could travel and go different places. So they were competing for dollars, where now they're not nearly as much. So yeah, inflation is certainly things you have to deal with. And again, Peter, we talked about Social Security with inflation, but let's talk about the pension side of things. At least Social Security does give you some form of cost of living adjustment. So they've got a factor in there at least. Most people aren't going to realize much of that in their retirement. But if you have a pension, and we have some nice unions up here where people can retire at 55 to 60 once they get their 30 years in, for example. And So they might get $4,000 a month at age 55 if you got your 30 years in. Got a couple of folks that have done that. Okay. Well, what is that $4,000 a month going to be like 20 years down the road? Because at 3% inflation, you're going to need, almost $7,000 20 years down the road to do the same thing.
Yeah, and you actually have a spreadsheet you've brought along, Chris, showing 3% inflation. If we need $3,000 a month today, 25 years is all it takes to double our need for income at what is actually below historical inflation rates. 3% is what you've illustrated, and it doubles our need for income. Historically, inflation, I believe, has been more around 3.5% to 4%. Chris, is this something that you help your clients and workers and savers to address in their planning? I know you've talked a lot about income planning and trying to identify how much it takes to produce an income. But once you do that, if you've identified some discretionary assets, do you ever talk to them about maybe positioning that to help combat inflation throughout the years and in later decades of retirement?
Peter, if you look at it today, with interest rates so low, inflation is something very important that we have to plan for now, because it's not like you can go to the bank with $500,000 and make 6% on it guaranteed. You can make 0 on it. A 10-year treasury bond right now is paying about 0.7% in interest. And even if inflation is 3%, your safe money making 0, you're really losing dollars. So having that increasing income is, paramount. One of the highest priorities that we deal with when we're putting portfolios and retirement pieces together for our clients and the folks that we meet with that listen, that come to us from the radio show as well.
Well, a little bit of a technical discussion here to begin the program, talking about inflation, talking about the Fed's stance on inflation, the reasons for it. Bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, you absolutely need to factor in inflation into your retirement income plan. And if you need help with that, formulating the plan, making sure that you have addressed several of the risks that can come with retirement and retirement income, inflation, taxation, unexpected expenses, how to generate a steady, consistent income regardless of volatility and shifts in the market. All of these are issues that Chris McIntire helps his clients to identify and address, as well as many others. Pick up the phone if you'd like to discuss these things for your particular situation, figure out if you're ready to retire, how much you need to retire, or how to maximize the income that you can generate once you do retire. 800-868-1194, the number to call. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Now, Chris, turning the corner a little bit from that technical discussion to a little bit more of a lighter discussion, you've got a list of different movies that are financial related or themed that really could teach us a lot, and kind of every person should probably watch several of these movies. The first on your list is arbitrage. Arbitrage, kind of a technical term, it's kind of the difference in interest rates, right? So if our money's not earning much and inflation is 3%, that's a negative arbitrage for us.
Absolutely. And we want to work off positive arbitrage. And if I got any clients out there that have a life insurance policy with us, they know that, we build cash value in a life insurance policy, borrow against it, and try to earn more in the policy than what we're being charged on interest. That's a positive arbitrage. So we're making money on the money we're borrowing, basically, and a good way to hedge, you would say, Peter.
Absolutely. Well, the movie starred Richard Gere and Tim Roth, and a little bit different theme, kind of Bernie Madoff-esque here. It's he's a hedge fund manager, runs into big trouble after an investment loss, and then borrows the paltry sum of $412 million from the fund in order to make it appear solvent to potential buyers. So it does sort of echo of Bernie Madoff, but it's something that would be entertaining. Doesn't paint the Wall Street types in the best light. And I think that's a theme across several of these movies, actually, Chris.
Oh, absolutely. Greed makes a very good theme for a movie, if you will. And, I think most of us will probably remember The Big Short. That was one of my favorite movies, written by, is it Michael Lewis, I believe is his name?
It's about basically leading up to the housing bubble and the Great Recession, right?
Yeah, and Steve Carell was from The Office, was one of the lead characters in there, and
Brad
a
Pitt and
lot of
Christian Bale. Yeah, it had a really good, actually a very entertaining movie for the dry theme and topic that it's about. They made it very entertaining.
absolutely, and it exposed the big banks and even the ratings companies and everything for what they did. But that, some of these people made huge monies betting against housing. So, most people out here, when we do our investing, you know, we're only hedging if the market goes up, and some people can short the market or bet that the market's going to fall, because for every winner on the other side of that trade is a loser. So some people think it's going to go up. Some people think it's going to go down. Like, the NFL football season's kicking off here, and some people are going to say the Browns are going to make the playoffs. And I know people don't wreck your car or anything up here
Every year.
but every year. And some people are going to bet the Browns lose, more games. So again, you can do the same thing with stocks as well.
Well, a couple quotes from this movie. No one can see a bubble. That's what makes it a bubble. I liked that one. And tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested. That was a humorous line in there. But a couple lessons. Your theory may be sound, but if your timing is off, you can get stuck with big losses. Chris, I've had this one happen personally in my kind of mad money, play money trading account. Theory, I think, was right on. I just timed it poorly. I bought in when it hadn't hit the low yet. I sold out before it started shooting up. So the theory was right. I owned the right thing. I just didn't own it at the right time.
Yep, good point there, Peter. And I'll tell you, another one of the classic movies out there is that Glenn Ross. I love that, very star-studded movie, and about guys that go out and they're selling the real estate. And I remember my grandmother and grandfather bought one of those properties down in Florida, never built anything on it or anything, but a lot of us that have been to a hotel or something will sit in on
The
a
timeshare, the
yeah,
timeshare pitches. Yeah.
to get a free dinner or something like that. So that Glenn Ross is something about that.
Coffee is for closers.
Coffee is for closers. Yep. ABC, always be closing. Yeah. Great movie there. And then,
kind of a sales oriented, showing kind of the another one on the list, very sales oriented, Boiler Room, kind of the same theme, similar themed movies.
Sure. Yep. The Wolf of Wall Street is there as well. And again, they, some of these things are painting everything in a bad light, but there's a lot of hidden humor in some of these. And, what was the other one there? Oh, Trading Places, Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, kind of the, the fixing of our frozen concentrated orange juice market. And, those things literally do happen. Boiler Room, like you said, is another one. Too Big to Fail. Some of these exposés are fascinating. And, The Big Short's one of my favorite all-time movies because, somebody actually read the documents that said, all right, if 7% of the houses in this mortgage bond fail, the whole thing the value of it goes to zero, the way that they were created. So, that it started as a ripple, ended up being a tsunami of epic proportions that we still are, probably fresh
still feeling
in our
today.
minds.
Yeah. Probably still feeling today in some form or fashion. I know they've begun to kind of loosen things back up and kind of fall into the same patterns and routines that got us there. But it definitely has had some ripple effects. Another one, and again, Brad Pitt in this one, I don't know, maybe he's got a knack for this financial stuff, or at least plays it well on the screen, but Moneyball. Not necessarily a financial film, but a let's get behind the numbers kind of film. And this was about the Oakland A's as they were building their dynasty. They didn't do it based on the all-star best players. They did it based on the statistics of those players, and they built a winning team.
Yeah, historic. And I remember watching the A's quite a bit. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, a lot of those good memories from when I was a kid. Raleigh Fingers and everything. Oh my goodness, we're going back in time here. I'm giving away my age, Peter. And but it's interesting to see where the numbers fall into this. So like, you take the Oakland A's, they were not like the Yankees trying to buy talent. They were buying the statistics, and numbers don't lie, is I guess what you could say. And I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan, if you can't tell here. And
No. Yeah, I see. For viewers or for folks that are listening and not viewing, Chris in his man cave has just a bit of Red Wing paraphernalia.
Sure. Yeah. There's a goalie stick there with everybody's name signed on it from the 1997 team. And Steve Yzerman, Sergei Fedorov, and so on. But, they build an organization, and I'm kind of an infrastructure geek as well. You want to lay the groundwork. If you're going to build, a successful team, a successful retirement, a wonderful home, you're going to start with a solid foundation and build up from there. You don't put the best roof on the weakest walls, for example.
Sure. Well, a couple quotes from Moneyball: adapt or die. When your enemy's making mistakes, don't interrupt them. And I hate losing. I hate it. I hate losing more than I even love winning. And the theme or the lessons is that different is not always better, but better is always different. And success often depends on sort of relearning and forgetting what you know. So, it's got some good lessons in that movie. I really liked that one. A couple more: Other People's Money. I thought that was a good one. Danny DeVito. The Wall Street series: Charlie Sheen, Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko. Those were very entertaining. They sort of paint the picture of Wall Street greed. One that's on Netflix right now that I've actually watched a couple times recently, Chris, that is a really fantastic movie about the founding of McDonald's. Michael Keaton and Ray Kroc, the founder. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it is a fantastic movie.
No, Peter, you're giving your age away. You're a millennial with Netflix. I'm an old school guy who is still paying cable bills. So.
Okay. All right. Well, the founder, go down to Blockbuster, Chris, and rent that one. Fun with Dick and Jane. Have you seen that one? It's got
Yes.
Jim Carrey in it, and it's he sort of leads the Globodyne meltdown. His CEO of this theoretical company in the movie does some insider trading, sells all his stocks. It's very Enron themed kind of play, and then what ensues and everything that they go through after the collapse of their company.
Yeah, been some classic movies out there. And, I think I'll go back to that Moneyball theme. And for the folks that are listening to us today, we're just, having a little fun here with some back and forth on some, some classic movies that were out there. And Peter was talking about Moneyball. And, I guess when it comes to retirement planning, if you've gotten enough to where you're into the retirement, landscape, and you feel you got a nice, comfortable nest egg, is, be careful swinging for home runs. You take like an Alex Rodriguez, for example, all the home runs of Barry Bonds, and, look at the controversy behind them, where you take like a Derek Jeter, for example, not the controversy, just guy came in, did his job, people respected. That was his mantra of a Derek Jeter.
Well, the guys who hit the most home runs, Chris, often are also the strikeout leaders. I think
Absolutely.
Aaron Judge has, a huge number of strikeouts. Doesn't give up, goes back up to the plate the next time because he's got a good chance of hitting one out of the park. But I remember, a string of Cecil Fielders and Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire's and Sammy Sosa's. All of those guys seemed to simultaneously be the home run kings and the strikeout kings.
Yeah, absolutely there. And I'll take a Cal Ripken any day of the week, a Joe Morgan, that type of thing. And, I know Pete Rose, has some controversy around him as well, but you can't be in Ohio and not mention the big red machine, obviously, too. Just
Charlie Hustle.
Charlie Hustle there. Yep. He showed up there and, lots of base hits and whatnot. And, you take a Cal Ripken, look at those consecutive games that guy played. Just amazing. And, just showed up and went to work and did his thing and went home.
Yep. And so sort of the parallel, bringing it home for us, Chris, is that consistency really is key in your financial progress and your investment philosophy.
It truly is. And, building a solid plan, around, the what ifs in life that can happen. What if, a spouse predeceases passes away early, for example. We, just had a conversation with some folks there that she wanted to retire. they listen to the radio show, and it's like, look, now's not the time. You're going to spend so much money on health insurance that it's going to be a big drain on your nest egg. And, my wife and I, age 55, and she's just about 60 by the airing of the show here. We pay $1,500 a month for health insurance. That's $18,000 a year. Not many people who work for an employer are ready to write that check every month. We've been doing it forever, basically. But, I've got clients that are working until 65 because they don't want to write $18,000 checks for health insurance. I get it,
Yeah, but that age, just because we hit that age, Chris, does not necessarily truly indicate if we are financially prepared for retirement. There are some who can do it at age 55. There are some who probably shouldn't do it until 70, and that's a very individual thing that you help people work through and figure out for their unique situation.
Yeah, it's a great perspective, Peter. Every situation is certainly different, depending on pensions, depending on assets, depending on the needs. That's the biggest thing. People say, well, can I retire? I need you to tell me if I can retire. I'm like, well, I know how much money you have, but how much money do you need to spend? You might have $2 million, but you need 150 grand a year. That's a challenge. It's a lot of money.
A little bit of a reverse engineering process that the question can be answered, but it's not an arbitrary lump sum amount. It's not an arbitrary age. It's actually a mathematic process that you help people through.
Sure. Yeah. Somebody says, hey, can I retire? And you can say, look, what are the provisions you made in case you went into a nursing home? What's the provisions you have in place in case one of the two of you, assuming we're talking to a husband-wife team here, passed away? What provisions have you made to guarantee your income for the rest of your life? So you start with those questions, and as soon as you can start answering those, you start narrowing down the potential to have a successful retirement. Nothing in life is guaranteed.
Well, if you would like help with that process of figuring out when can I retire, how much do I need to retire, how much income can I generate in retirement and not risk running short throughout the duration of retirement, those are questions that Chris McIntire helps his clients answer each and every day. It's a process that he will help you through. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. There are many factors that go into that process. The strategy session that Chris does offer with no cost, no obligation. There is really no downside for placing that call. You get direct answers and direct direction and recommendations for your specific situation. Chris McIntire will provide that to you. If you are willing to invest your time, he is willing to donate his. Give a call, 800-868-1194. He'll take a look at the risks that you're taking, the fees that you're paying, the taxes that you may be liable for, how to translate and transition that lump sum into the income that you need, how to maximize available sources of lifetime income like Social Security and pensions, what issues, risks, and opportunities are there between here and your financial future, and how to leverage your money. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris, fully capable of conducting these reviews either in person or virtually through the safety and convenience of technology, correct?
Absolutely. And, we enjoy Zoom. We have Skype and many different types of technology, lots of telephone calls we do with our current clients. And for us, it's still basically 8 to 5 every single day.
Well, give a call. Chris is working hard for his clients, making sure that their money is working for them. And if you've got questions, if your money is working as hard as it should be, he can help you answer those questions. Pick up the phone, give him a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. You can go online, McIntireRetirementServices.com, McIntireRetirementServices.com. Chris, we always appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Everybody stay safe out there. We're getting close to the end of this. So thank you very much.
Visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.